told Mark to leave the podium up here. If you study the Dwight Schrute public speaking model to captivate your audience, you need to be able to pound the podium and raise your hands several times. So, I know something about you guys being asleep and stuff like that. But when Mark asked me to do this, typically I'd ask him why. Why would he pick me? With my testimony and my story for a great majority of my life, I felt like that it was like a contest, and it was your Christianity was tiered, and so you had your disciples and all these folks with great testimonies. I just didn't feel like my story was good. So a little bit about me. I was born to young parents. They were still kids themselves. They didn't work out. My mom and I, we moved around a whole lot, and then at a very early young age, I went to stay with my grandparents, and they ended up adopting me to give me more of a consistent life. My grandparents believed in attending church, and so every Sunday was church for me growing up. It was a kind of a requirement, and so I was raised in church, knew all the church stories, and that's kind of how I got my foundation and stuff. I still believe doing that with my kids too. But then when I got in high school, as most teenagers do, I strayed a little bit, and I thought I'd see what the world had to offer. It wasn't anything major, but as most teenagers do, like I said, they will stray. I didn't attend church as regularly. I didn't have that foundation and that core, and so I was more open to the world. After high school, I went to work at Walmart and started Hazlitt Community College. I met this hot cheerleader at Prairie Central, and together we started going to church. We got back in church. We started going to Maple Street Church and with a few other different churches. Politics played a matter in that. I won't get into all those details and stuff too. Different churches we attended, but Maple Street, we got saved there. We became baptized, and we got married at Maple Street, and so we started, our foundation and our journey together off in the right way too. We moved away to college. We church hopped. We couldn't find the right church in Moorhead to attend, and then we came back and we church hopped more. And we came back here, moved back, and got jobs and stuff. And then eventually, some of my folks I work with, they said, "Well, why don't you try Summit out?" And so the only thing I knew about Summit at that time is if you drink the Kool-Aid, it's like Jonestown. You kind of indoctrinated into it. So, I heard the stories like everyone else, and so I said, "I'm gonna try the Kool-Aid out and see what it tastes like." And so we tried Summit out, and we've not left Summit. We love the atmosphere. We like the music, everything it offers, and the big four-headed pastor. You can't help but love him. So he's just a great guy. Got into life groups, and Mark had always recommended that. And John Holbrook had came up to me and said, "Let's have an life group at RW." I'm the principal at RW, for those of you that don't know. And so I said, "Yeah, let's try it out." And so I started attending John's life group, and then one thing led to another, and eventually I'm leading the life group at RW. And that really gave me more of a foundation. I thought growing up, knowing all the church stories as a kid, being raised in church, that was enough. But, Paul says eventually you got to go from the milk into solid food. And so getting to life group, learning about adult issues, and that I'm not the only one who faces these ordeals and stuff like that, that was a big thing for me. But also in life group, it also taught me about this whole contest and tiered system. I heard everybody else's stories about overcoming drug addiction or once being in jail and their testimony. And I'm like, my story is not that important. My story is not as significant as their story. And I always ask God that too. I was like, "God, I don't have a story to tell." And then 2019 came along, and so be careful what you ask God for in a story. 2019, July 5th, Davina and I lost our home, and just everything in it, all of our belongings, all of our things that we had collected from our parents and grandparents, all of our stuff we had with our kids and everything like that. So we lost everything in the house fire, and that home was you real quick. Just basically having the shirt on your back. And then I didn't have that. because they cut my shirt off. And so my buddy came to the hospital. He gave me his shirt off his back. So if someone gives you the shirt off your back, they're a pretty big deal to you. But after the house fire, I started just talking to God a little bit those next few days and trying to find some peace in it. And I've always, my favorite verses in the Bible has always been Philippians 4:13. It's just one I connected to. But after the house fire, I started just trying to look through the Bible, and I was like, God, talk to me for a little bit. And so I hadn't put a lot of stock in the verses prior to Philippians 4:13. I'd always just kind of went to that. You know how you go to John 3:16 or Philippians 4:13? You just go to those specific verses. You don't really read around the context around all that. So, but God pointed out to me Philippians 4:10 through 12. And Paul's talking to the Philippians, and he said, I rejoice in the Lord greatly that now, at length, you have revived your concern for me. You were indeed concerned for me, but you had no opportunity. Not that I am speaking of being in need, for I have learned in whatever situation I am to be content. I know how to be brought low, and I know how to abound. In any and every circumstance, I have learned that the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. And so I was living life abundantly before that. And then in a time of need, the community stepped up and the church stepped up and so many other people around us did. And so God taught me that in whatever situation I'm in, to learn to be content in that situation and be thankful for everything in my life and the blessings in my life. I guess that's more of my testimony and my story now. I'm continuing to grow and walk in this journey, and each week, listening to Mark, taking notes, I gain more and more knowledge, and studying Scripture too. So I thank Mark for this opportunity to let me come up and speak to everyone. A few years ago, like I said, I was asking why. Why'd you pick me? There's so many other people out there with testimonies and stuff, but I'm thankful for the opportunity to share my story.